Hello and welcome to New Earth Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Chave, and today I'm delighted to have with me the wonderful Adrian Lee. And we're going to be talking about the integration of the divine masculine and feminine. Welcome, Adrian. So lovely to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. I think, although that's the title, there's probably going to cover quite a lot in this. But there's so many different offshoots. But anyway, we'll start with that one.
We start with that and see where we go.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
would you like to just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background to start off with?
Yeah, so I am currently in the south of England in this amazing New Forest community where we have amazing spiritual people, and I'm so grateful to be involved with all of them down here. But my path didn't start like that at all. And I think with the title of um, putting the feminine and the masculine together on both sides, I was brought up. Well, I had quite negative programming as a child, like so many people of my generation. As in, you're not good enough. You'll never make any, make anything of yourself, or you're not as good as this person, or whatever. And of course, and I'm going to be honest with you, I was a victim of that for years and years and years. I let myself be a victim of that. And I was shown the spiritual path from a very early age. I was going to see mediums in my early 20s when, my friends were, more interested in girls and beer, basically. But I mean, I did get into that eventually, but yeah, so that's where I started, because I actually didn't even know what I was doing on this earth. If you know, what is this earth all about? And I actually then, in my late 20s, I lived with a medium, and she said, Adrian, you are a healer. And I said, what do you mean a healer? What is all that stuff? And I completely ignored it. um I know we're all healers, but she said, Adrian, you're a healer. You're here to do stuff on this earth. um but I'm afraid through all that programming of you've got to work hard, the harder you work, the more you get, the more things you can buy. And we know we've all been, well, a lot of us have been results of that programming. So I ignored all of that, the spiritual side, until much later on in life, when the universe basically, it said, okay, you cannot ignore this anymore. But in that time, so this happened in 2017. It came a time where I couldn't ignore that at all. But between that time, because I couldn't really function so well, I was going through, I was in clinical depression on and off for over 20 years, with huge amounts of antidepressant, because that's the only way that I saw that at the time, because I didn't recognize any of this other healing stuff. And of course, the programming of, you've got to be a man, you've got to provide. And yeah, I was stuck in that cycle, and I was just going through cycles of depression, and I must be this type of person. And I certainly had a vulnerability, because I used to get depressed, and that was also suicidal thoughts as well. So that would be right down to where you even can't function.
Yes.
And I think that's, like a lot of people, I am generalizing here, so it's not about everyone, of course, but when you're in that cycle, that's where you do drink a bit more of alcohol, because that's your stress relief. Where you should be sitting down, doing exercise or meditating, you turn to, alcohol, and that's your getting out of the stress. Well, you think it is anyway. So I was definitely in that cycle. And I did a good job actually when I was in corporate, but it did come with a lot an awful lot of negatives, as in stress, huge amount of stress, which manifested in, disease in the body and in my mind. But so I mean, that's a real quick story through, because there was lots of other stuff that happened in
Yeah.
that time. But that's all, you know that's all past. And I would say it was only recently that I actually really got out of the victim mode. And I think when you finally go, actually, everything's this is quite harsh, everything's my fault, I am responsible for everything, whether the universe is showing you lessons, or you're bringing those lessons upon yourself. That's the way it is. And it's a lot easier when you actually finally surrender to the go, actually, everything is my responsibility, it is my fault, whatever word you want to use. It's then a lot easier to live with yourself and everything around you every day. So in 2017, I don't know how far you want to go with this, I literally was sitting on someone's couch and going, because basically the universe took everything away from me.
Okay.
It took my house, it took my pension fund.
Gosh.
I can say,
Yeah.
the universe, or did I do that? Well, something happened. So I finally, a friend of mine called me up and said, I'm having this energy healing for my leukemia, which has reversed it. And of course, most people get to healing when they've got nowhere else to go,
Yeah.
and that was me at that point.
Wow.
So
What an incredible journey, Adrian. Thank you so much for sharing. I know that that will be incredibly valuable for our listeners, because a lot of people are perhaps going through these sort of dark night of the souls now with what we're going through as a collective.
that's a really interesting, because I know that's a really big thing right now, isn't it? Lots of people going through the dark night of the soul. And actually, even though when I met the energy healing modality, things really starting to improve. When I say improve, it really put me in a place of just without medication, and when you're doing a meditation, you're doing a healing practice, it just puts you in a calm, neutral place. And that's what it did for me. So no medication or anything like that. And that was fantastic. But it was just last year, actually, about February last year, when there was what's actually happening with a lot of people. Some of the things that we used to go through are finally coming up to be healed.
Yes.
And that certainly happened to me, because I was depression free for 4 years or whatever. But it come back with a vengeance, over a particular matter. And you just can't do anything about it. People who suffer with clinical depression will know what I mean. You are just stuck in the mud, and you know what you should be doing, but you are absolutely stuck. Well, so that came up for me in February last year.
I'm just wondering, while we're talking about depression, if you have any insights from your time, of being depressed, and sort of how to navigate that and how to sit with it, in a kind of healing way.
Well, what they say now, of course, what I would say now as well, but this is very difficult when you're in it, because when you're in it, you can't see your way out of it,
Yes.
because it's so heavy. But if you had anything, if you could do anything, is this is really difficult, to feel into it and acknowledge it. And if you can, thank it, and for showing you this way. That sounds crazy, but of course that's what we should be doing with anything that making us feel uncomfortable. But tried something different. If you've tried it all before, if you do the same thing, you're going to get the same results. So it would be talking to I would now go talk to a healer, a good healer, or whatever, and get some calmness in your life. And there was an awful lot of judgment around. And I would say that, you know, people haven't been through it. Of course, they will never be able to understand it. They just like, I'm never going to be, you know, a man is never going to understand what it's like giving birth to a baby. You know, that we're never going to understand it. So,
Thank you. That's incredibly helpful. The other thing that I wanted to touch upon, that you talked about in your personal story was, you know, this, you said that the universe just had made you let go of everything because you know, you lost your job, your pension, everything. And my experience of an understanding of moving into New Earth is that we're really being asked by the universe to let go of all that's not serving us, you know, both internally and in the outer world. You know, systems are failing, and, you know, the things that we went to for security before aren't necessarily there. And it's kind of a big initiation in a way for many of us.
yeah, yeah.
Just wondering if you'd like to speak to that, to surrendering and not being attached to, you know, certain outcomes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so there's two things here. One about the healing process. You know, I'm a healer, and I clear the Akashic records and all of that. There's the healing side, but then there's what we were talking about, the masculine and the feminine side. So let's start on that first of all, which is, you know, a lot of women are now, a lot of feminines are actually integrating the masculine side to move forward into a position of standing in their power, because they've not been in that for centuries. And absolutely, but also it's really important that men start integrating their feminine side, and that can be quite difficult for a man, which is to, you know, to show their vulnerability, to show that, because we're programmed to show that as a, you know, that's a weakness.
Yes.
And actually, I don't look at that. You know, many times I'll go, God, I just want to cry today, or, you know, or I'm feeling. We've got to be careful with our words, thoughts, words, actions, and deeds, of course. But sometimes, let's face it, we do. You know, we are not feeling great. So it's just acknowledging that, and acknowledging our emotions. But I see that as a strength now. I'm actually really proud that I'm emotional, that I'm in touch with my feminine side, you know, and I've got that sensitivity. At least I understand people, you know, a hell of a lot more than I used to. And so if men somehow, and if it, you know, I'm sure more men are doing that to show their vulnerability. It's actually a great strength, in so many different ways, because this is all about truth, honesty, and integrity. So when we're having conversations, I remember having conversations when I was in that, going, yeah, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. And you're absolutely not, because you're just holding on to that stress energy or whatever. But you can actually go, I'm not having the best day right today. But of course, then you're putting it right with your words and actions and deeds in another way. I was going to say there
I
was
love
a
what you're
different.
saying. You know, I love what you're saying about vulnerability being a strength, because um, if we can find ways to step out of our comfort zones, you know, which is what we're needing to do to unlearn and to, um, you know, re-examine the world that we're living in, we're having to step out of that which we know, you know. So if we're able to do that, then we grow, you know, because if we're living within this little parameter of, you know, if we're stepping outside of that, then automatically we grow. So you know, vulnerability is a strength. And I love what you're saying about this idea of you know, men. But how I see it as well is it's not just you know, it's not just men, because, you know, for some women, that because we've lived in a very masculine orientated world, you know, for a lot of women, we've had to live from a very masculine way as well. So, you know, for each of us, it's about bringing in those different aspects and integrating them, you know, because we've lived in a world that's very competitive. And going back to what you said earlier about the conditioning about, you know, you're not good enough, you need to work harder, you know, to be the provider, you know, all that heavy kind of input that kind of keeps us held and locked into a certain way of being in the world. Um, is that something you'd like to talk about a little bit more, Adrian?
Well, I can only, I'm not, you know, I don't pretend to know everything. But I think what I would say is that literally, when I was doing the energy healing, that was a certain thing. But when I learned how to clear the Akashic records a couple of years ago, that was also a massive, massive game changer, because I could change things just by going into my Akash and saying a few words. But going back to the surrender of February 22, when I had a real dark night of the soul, and this does come in with the whole thing of, you know, showing your vulnerability. And it was a really dark night of the soul. But after that day, I literally went, okay, God, over to you, because I didn't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
I'd gone the healing; it had taken me so far. But when that actually finally come up, and when I went, okay, if you want me to live on the streets, if you want me to do this, you know, I'll do it if it gets me through. And I made a quite a could be a scary statement to God, as in, or some people call it the divine, some people call it the universe, whatever you want to say. I said, okay, if I can't change it, let me go through it as soon as possible. Which is sometimes, now and again, you go, why did I say that? But because, but I don't want to be doing this stuff in 2 or 3 years' time. I want to be absolutely getting on with it right now.
Oh, good on
And
you, Adrian.
so, but amazing when I actually surrendered
Yeah.
to all of the worries, the magic started to happen. The
Yeah.
real magic started to happen. Some of my debts were written off by a bank. I was given a car by a guy that just knew me for just under an hour. Um, I was offered to come to Portugal, all expenses paid, and some amazing stuff has happened in Portugal because of that trip. And then there's quite a number of other things happened as well, and I can't remember for that. But the magic. So once you literally let go
Yeah.
and really truly surrender and let go of the energy, and I'm, you know, we still have bits and pieces now that I go, come on, I'm holding on to that. I've got to let go of that. The real magic starts to happen.
It's really interesting what you're saying, and I think for a lot of us, you know, we've needed to hit that rock bottom, you know, to kind of find that deep spiritual connection, you know, that which then guides, you know, and you know, carries us through. Because certainly from my own experience, unless I'd been found that within myself and that connection, I don't think I'll be here today, kind of thing, because I've been through similar kind of journeys.
Yeah,
And you know, I think it's quite sad in many ways, and I'm wondering whether part of this integration of the masculine and feminine, bringing it into the more divine aspects rather than toxic aspects, is that part of the world we've lived in has been so stripped of spirit. You know, it seems very sad that we have to go through this kind of dark night of the soul in order to find it. And you know, part of the journey that we're on as a collective at the moment, I believe, is that integration, not just of the masculine and feminine, but of the body, mind, spirit connection also, so that we can become fully integrated beings. Um, does that resonate at all,
yeah,
Adrian?
no, absolutely. And on that point, you know, a lot of the high profiles now who are actually teaching, you know, teaching the world, helping the world, people like, you know, Diana Cooper, she doesn't talk about it so much anymore because she doesn't need to, but you know, she went through some terrible times. But that's, you know, when she said, you know, okay, if there's something else out there, show me an angel within an hour, you know, and she was shown that angel.
Yes.
Dr. Joe Dispenza, you know, who broke his back, he literally mended his back when he was told that he was, you know, he mended it himself. So a lot of the, and there's many others, many
Yeah.
other examples out there, and there's just two, of, you know, people need to go through the real lowest of the low to you know, to accelerate them up to help the world. And I think that's what a lot of people are going through, and if we can hold on to that, because there's a lot of people to help in this world, then that's actually very exciting once you've been through it, of course.
Absolutely, it becomes the gift. It's like the you know, the wounded, the Chiron archetype, isn't it? The wounded healer. You know, when you can start to embrace that aspect, it becomes the gift. You know, that we can then offer to
Uh,
others. You know, because like you said earlier, unless you've been through it, there's no way that you could
no.
begin to have compassion or understanding unless you've been through these kind of experiences.
And if I can just, you know, if I can maybe, if I kind of think about these chats, you know, if they help one person, that's job done. If they help 100 people, that's even more amazing. And let's just say this is going to help 1,000 people. Let's put it out there that's going to help that many people.
Yay!
But since then, you know, I, and I'm only saying this about, this is not about me, but this is about when you let go of the energy and when you do surrender. I got involved with a guy called Rory Duff. He's like the world expert on energy lines. And I did and he's actually created a network, and it's called sacrednetwork.org. Um, I did a dowsing course in one day in Bath, and it was amazing. And he'd set up these meditations around the world on sacred sites.
Beautiful.
So a few months later, I went, I'm just going to set up a meditation. And I'd been in meditations and, you know, been on other people's meditations, but I set up a meditation event at Knowlton Church in near here in Dorset, Wimborne, expecting what Rory said, you know, 24 people was the optimal amount of people to get the energy. And it's all about those sort of days are all about getting the energy flowing around the world to unblock, because there are forces out there that don't want us to do that either. But anyway, and connect with all the other groups around the world that are doing those meditations on the same day to help the world, to help the collective and the energy lines. And I set it up, and 140 people turn up.
Amazing.
And then it's just gone on from there, you know. And I think you know, we get about 250 each time now on a solstice or equinox, you know. And I would say once you also surrender, my heat, the, you know, I've been getting more gifts as you surrender, as long as you're not holding on to anything, like the outcome of anything. If you let go of any outcome, you just seem to get better results, you know. And because that's the whole thing, isn't it? We want this, we would like that. Now we can manifest and put it out there, but then let go of the outcome
Yes.
and see what comes in.
Yeah.
I felt the need to say that, just to encourage people, if anybody needs to hear it, that, you know, magic can happen. um
And it does. I mean, I've seen photographs of the, you know, the events that you've been holding. I've never had the privilege to go to one because I'm in Portugal, but you can feel the energy, you know, in the photographs. It's very, very tangible. It's quite incredible. So that's an amazing way to come together to shift energy. And I spoke with another lady in my podcast. A few months ago, Sue Cooper, who runs Moments of Mass Meditation, and she's doing similar. So I think that's the beauty.
ah
You know, there are people.
yeah,
This is gonna, you know, it's like a ripple effect.
Absolutely.
Hence my
And
picture behind me.
what I would, and what I would say is also on that, if anybody does want to, because there are sacred sites in Portugal, there's sacred sites all around the world. If anybody wants to set up their own sacred network meditation, we do them on the eves and the solstices, on the eves of, because that's when everybody used to meet at the sacred sites. So we kind of replicate that. And then we link up. There's kind of a format for that. We do a meditation for the to link into what the earth needs, and then we heal the earth, and then we link into what the people want.
That's
And
beautiful.
it's just it's something that Rory Duff has looked at and analysed with his people. So
Can
anyway,
we put the link? Can we put the link for that under the video if you send me the link, Adrian? And
absolutely,
then people can tune
absolutely.
into that. And also, I'd like to mention, because this is super exciting, because we have a lot of viewers in Portugal, that you're going to be coming to Portugal to support Diana Cooper's doing an event at the end of October, 22nd, Sunday, the 22nd of October. Would you like to just talk a little bit about that event? Because I think that's going to be very, very special.
Yeah. So you know, just talking about the surrender again. When you do surrender and let go of the outcomes, the magic happens. I'm absolutely blessed to have got to know Diana, and we've walked on the beach, and I've done some healing for her as well. And so so the deposit is done. So we are planning she is planning and I'm going to have a slot at her event, on the 22nd of October in the Algarve in Albufeira in Saint Raphael. That's where the deposit is booked for. We yet to put the finer details on it. So, and that will be her first live event, I think, in 3 years.
It's about
Um,
500 people, isn't it? So, if you're thinking to come, it might be good to come for the whole weekend. I think it's going to be really fun.
the tickets aren't available right now. I think if we around about early May, they're on Diana Cooper's website. They will be available for anybody who's listening to this. Yeah, it's going to be it's very, very exciting, and Portugal is really special
Yes,
for the whole world. There's so many spiritual people going there. Every other person I talk to, knows someone there or wants to go and live there or whatever. So it's and so really looking forward to this event
yeah, and I
too.
believe that's why Diana chose Portugal, because of the connection with Archangel Raphael as well. Um,
Absolutely.
and that's going to be what we're working with at that class.
I think Raphael's Retreat is near you, isn't it? In mid Portugal, somewhere up there,
I
somewhere.
believe so. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I will be doing a group Akashic record clearing. I mean, I do this on a regular basis with clients anyway, and it's just been absolutely bizarre, or incredible what's been happening. But I think that's also the energies, what's actually happening with the energy of the earth right now. We're all accelerating quite fast now. um and actually there's a lot of us, well, a lot of people are actually feeling really tired with the energies as well.
Yes.
And literally you can be doing something one moment, and then the next you're like, I need to sleep.
Yeah.
It is crazy, and it's important we honor ourselves by actually going to sleep, and resting. That's where we're healing as well. So yeah, no, I think certainly my healing ability has seemed to have it's changed an awful lot, and I understand it is happening for quite a lot of other people as well.
Yeah, I'd
So
love to hear more about how you work with clearing the Akashic records. I've been fortunate enough to um, receive a session from you, and I found it incredibly powerful. I felt like I kind of cleared like lifetimes of stuff actually. For me personally, it was interesting because we did a lot of very deep clearing, which for me, it's cleared in a way that it never has done before. You know, as a healer, you kind of spiral, don't you? You kind of, the same themes come back round and round. And this time I feel, you know, from your support, it's cleared deeper than ever before. But uh, it was a bit of an initiation as well. It can that sometimes happen for people, that they have to kind of, it's almost to make it conscious, there has to be some kind of process that happens.
Yeah, I would say no one clearing is the same, but that certainly happens in quite a lot of the clearings.
Yeah.
And this is really important for me to say. I just do my thing and stuff happens. I don't pretend to know exactly what happens in every single detail. That's way too much. But all I know is people can get really, you know, some people might shift by 1%, but some people will shift by 100%, and it's like a huge jump forward.
Yeah.
Um, all I know is that I learned what um, kind of programs and imprints and energies have been put on us in many different lifetimes. So when I come into someone's Akashic records with them, we'll just do a deep clearing session. So it's a bit like, I think so somebody said it's like going for a good scrub. You know, it's like bringing in your car and you'll get a good service. We'll check everything. But you're absolutely right. It's some people can go like, oh, you know, that was really tough, but there's a jump forward. Some people can,
Definitely.
particularly clearing soul contracts. It's a real biggie. And if we think about all the people around us, particularly family, you know, and past relationships, it's not, they don't always serve us. And sometimes we're still holding on to that energy. And in most cases, they've been with us for many lifetimes, holding us
Yes.
back. So it's time to release that soul contract in the Akashic records. And if it's meant to go, it will go. And people can really go forward. I had one lady who you know, she was divorced at age 28 and couldn't commit to a new relationship by the age 40, even though she had some real lovely relationships. We did a clearing of the soul contract with her ex-husband. Within a week, she had moved to her then on-off boyfriend, and within 2 months, she had married her then on-off
Oh,
boyfriend. Um,
amazing.
they are happily married still 2 years later. I just want to mention. So, but yeah, they can. You know, remarkable things can happen. But I would say to everyone, like all of us healers, there's many great modalities out there. You've got great modality. You know, I've tried it all. You know, the motion codes, other energy healings, shamanic. I also do some past life where, you know, the client sees all of the past lives. And that, I think we're going to touch on karmic healing. But
Yes.
well, the Akashic records certainly can do that. And yeah, it is time to get rid of that karma in this lifetime. But it's interesting when I take people back in past lives, what they actually see that they were. And that's not me seeing it, that they see it. And it's
Yeah.
so karmic healing. Did you want to say about something about karmic healing in
Well, I
right
was
now?
just interested to talk about it from the context of, you know, my understanding of the time that we're going through at the moment is that karma can be cleared quite instantaneously. You know,
Yeah,
it's ripe. 2023 is ripe for that kind of healing,
yeah.
and how that kind of really connected in with the work that you're doing.
Well, it's time for, you know, if we listen to all the, you know, the astrology and some of the other, you know, dear Pam Gregory, is also based down here. You know, this is the time. This is the time for us to move forward. So heal, heal, heal. There's surrender, 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 and let's all move into our power, whether that's bringing in our feminine energy if you're a male, or whatever it is. I don't want to pigeonhole people, and if I've said anything wrong in this, I didn't mean to.
You
Because you
haven't
can't
said
take it.
anything wrong, Adrian. It's not possible.
It's difficult not to offend someone along the line, but you know, if it's done with truth and integrity, yeah, it's
Absolutely. Standing in your truth and coming from the heart, you can't go wrong.
no, it's really exciting times, and I'm, you know, I just love all the connections. So we're all doing our bit, whether we're healers or whatever we are, you know, podcasts. What I love right now is that you meet someone and you go, oh, I know so and so who knows so and so, and the connections just get bigger and bigger and
Yeah,
bigger, and the soul family is just widening, and
beautiful.
it's just a beautiful thing.
And you can
Um,
really feel it, can't you, being held? I'm certainly feeling it, with the People's Health Alliance as well, and the network associated. So there's the network of your lovely friends in the New Forest area, and
yes.
also just recently connected with Chatwin, who is the Conscious People's Network. And that's
Ah,
another beautiful network, and it's just it feels very held, these lovely connections.
absolutely, and they are all overlapping somehow, you know. And
Yes,
Rory Duff's work of energy lines, Pam Gregory's, that overlaps, and
yes,
it overlaps with, you know, some of the psychics and the channelers, and yeah, and the People's Health Alliance, you know, it's just so beautiful
it's
how the
amazing, isn't
networks,
it? They've just
yeah,
had their first birthday, and it's amazing the work that's happened in the last year, and how it's spread. It's like in 30 countries now. It's amazing. People are being really called to find out what it is and to get involved.
absolutely. Well, yeah, and you're doing that in Portugal, um, and across the world, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Was there anything you wanted to just talk about that we haven't covered, Adrian, that you wanted to talk about
I
before we
was
finish
I
up
was I was
today?
having a little my little list down here, but I think yeah, maybe the only thing that I've missed out from here is the healing journey. I think I touched on it. It is, you know, you need to, we don't need to, but it's good to look at everything with your own discernment. I went through a list of I did a number of courses in different healing, and you know, couple of them said, oh, you know, they were the best, and you know, this is the only thing you should look at. We got to look at our own discernment, and we use all of our own skills inside. I don't believe one thing is better than another, because it depends on all the elements, the timing, the
Absolutely.
healer, the your
And
karma,
the
everything.
connection, like certain people are drawn to certain healers, and certain people can hold other people better. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I feel it's very personal in that way.
Absolutely. And the other thing, so you know, you use your own discernment on what people are saying. And the other thing was, there shouldn't be any conditions. Of course, with all of our one thing that I really want to get out there is that there shouldn't be any conditions to our connections or our friendships or whatever. There needs to be respect. But if we're doing things which are conditional,
Yeah,
then it just doesn't feel right for me.
yeah,
So we just, you know, we put it out there, we do what we need to do, and if we're expecting something back from someone, then that's the wrong reason for doing it.
yeah, yeah,
um you know, we'll just do it with love, do it without outcome, and you know, without the need for outcome, and yeah, let life flow. I know it can be difficult for a lot of people sometimes, including myself sometimes, but if we're living in the flow and doing our manifestation, living in it rather than wanting it, you know, living in it now, that's the way forward.
thank you so much, Adrian. It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. You've got beautiful humility, and I know that a lot of people will have really drawn so much from all that you've had to share. Um, can you just let people know how to get in contact with you?
Yes, website adrianleeenergy.com. I am actually in the process of changing it, but it'll do for right now. It's
We'll
certainly,
put it under the video as well.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
thank you everyone for listening today, and thank you so much, Adrian, for joining us. Do hit subscribe if you've enjoyed this podcast, so you can access more podcasts, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you.